Hello, chess fans. On September 16th, in round 11 of Title Tuesday, Magnus Carlsen faced Andrey Esipenko. Both grandmasters were fighting for the top prizes, but surprisingly, the game ended after just 90 moves. Let's see what happened. Esipenko began with the king's pawn. Magnus replied with the fierce Sicilian Defense, knight f3, and black chose the Paulsen Variation. Esipenko grabbed the center, trades followed, and soon the position settled into a familiar setup where black's queen finds comfort on c7. Andrey continued his development. Magnus targeted a pawn, and after bishop d3, Carlsen's queen landed on c7, eyeing both the center and the queen's side. Esipenko ambitiously seized space, building the Maróczy structure. Magnus countered on the c-file. White exchanged on c6 and pushed another pawn forward. It looked solid, but Magnus immediately began his undermining operations. Esipenko pressed on. Magnus checked. The most reliable defense was knight c5, giving white a small plus. Instead, Andrey blocked with his knight, allowing black to damage the pawn structure. At that moment, it was best for black to capture on c3 immediately, but Magnus delayed. He played c5 instead, missing his chance. And so began a sequence that engines would call a comedy of errors, like that famous film Dumb and Dumber. White ignored the threat, black ignored the capture. Over and over, Magnus refused to take on c3, while Andrey kept leaving it hanging. Finally, white moved his rook off the f-file, aiming for g5. Magnus, once again, avoided taking. Only after Esipenko defended with his queen did Magnus at last capture on c3, but by then, white could have taken with the queen, preserving a healthier structure, and two bishops. Yes, white loses a pawn, but they get activity. Black can't castle long because the pawn is hanging, and on the king's side, the black king was already walking into a gang of shaved-headed thugs in leather jackets, just waiting to jump him. Instead, Andrey recaptured with the pawn, and then, with shocking optimism, castled long. His king looked exposed, but perhaps he hoped it was safe. Magnus disagreed. Esipenko tried to add protection with his queen, but then came the hammer, a rook sacrifice on the 3. If white had captured with the rook, black would regain the exchange with interest. In the game, Andrey took with the queen and immediately resigned after Magnus's reply. On move 19, the queen was trapped with no escape. Even after queen e2, black crashes through with checks on c3 and the first rank, and white collapses. White has to block with the rook, but then black still keeps checking along the first rank. Then they check along the file, and white is forced to block with the queen. Black obtains a decisive material advantage and a crushing attack on the white king. That's, guys, what an amazing in terms of mutual mistakes game between two very strong grandmasters. Thanks to this victory, Magnus Carlsen took clear first place in yet another Title Tuesday. Write in the comments what you think about it. Smash that like button, subscribe to my awesome chess, and hit the bell, because chess is awesome.